Hello, I am Professor Kino, and welcome to my Office of Cinematic Antiquity. Today we'll be talking about Director Robert Eggers came creeping into the homes of horror and art house fanatics when he debuted his first full-length directorial escapade in 2015 with The Witch, a Puritan period piece psychological horror film with a production that involved the authentic recreation of 17th century clothes and buildings, the mastery of ye olde English, and a bunch of research into actual Puritan witch trials. And while because of this, the film was met with glowing critical acclaim and the reverence of horror cinephiles who declared that this is how horror should be, for everyone else it proved to be a divisive, pretentious, uncomfortable experience that tested patience. However, despite your opinion of the film, it was undeniable that the mind behind it, Robert Eggers' mind, was a unique voice in horror that pushed the genre's boundaries into new territory. So of course I was intrigued when his new film was announced and seemed to be pushing the genre even further, not to mention its trailer was killer, honestly one of my favorites of the year. And this film, simply called The Lighthouse, was going to loosely adapt the real story of two stranded lighthouse keepers that went crazy during their extended stay at their isolated seaside charge in Wales, and present it to us with Eggers' unique and creepy cinematic style that is full of surreal imagery and uncomfortable occurrences. So do I think that this second Eggers experience will be more appealing to the masses, or is Eggers just a director whose films are more an acquired taste? Premise. After arriving at an isolated island lighthouse to tend to it for 4 weeks, new lighthouse keeper Wiki Ephraim Winslow and old-timer Thomas Wake almost immediately butt heads, and as their month-long shift continues, the two men repeatedly clash with each other until they reach their respective points of insanity. And this dire situation only continues to escalate when their stay gets extended indefinitely by the manifestation of a violent and unexpected storm that makes the sea around the lighthouse choppy and untraversable. It's taken me a while to get around to reviewing this film because honestly, it is dense. I can make it easy on myself and just say that The Lighthouse is a very stylish, visually unique, period piece psychological horror film featuring two bravois performances from Robert Pattinson and Willem Dafoe. But that would seem like too much of an easy way out for me, so I will do my best to give you my thoughts on the film as they are. On the surface, this film is pretty self-explanatory. Two guys get stuck on an island together and drive each other insane through their difficulties with each other. But what makes this story unique is its presentation and its execution. So I'll start with the former, presentation. The first part of this is the film's clear artistic choice to make itself as period-influenced as possible. Much like Eggers' first foray into horror with The Witch and its use of ye olde English, The Lighthouse crafts its dialogue with the influence of classic-style maritime language as found in actual wiki journals and from authors such as Herman Melville and his famous works, most notably Moby Dick. This results in a very interesting watch, but I will admit it takes a while to fully understand everything being said thanks to the gruff voices of the film's leads and their use of non-traditional and strange word choices and sentence structure, at least by today's standards. Next comes the setting. For a film about two big, clashing, masculine personalities, a lighthouse is the perfect location. Not only is it claustrophobic with its tight, small rooms and isolating surrounding waves that makes everything feel tense, uncomfortable, and cramped, which is all amplified and made even more prevalent with the film's unique usage of a 1:19:1 aspect ratio, but the phallic imagery that inherently comes along with the lighthouse, just look at it, adds to the film's subject of male frustration and alpha-beta male confrontation. And then these well-thought-out production designs and bold stylistic choices are all coded in and presented to us with a visually striking black and white filter, which, fun fact, was specifically made for this film alone, that adds a whole extra drab and claustrophobic feel to the whole thing. And all of these deliciously dingy elements combine from the first frame to set the stage for what's to come involving the film's story. And boy does a lot come, possibly too much, if I'm being honest. It's so much, in fact, that I'm still trying to wrap my head around it all and decide on whether it all works or not. Where to begin? In addition to all the Melville influences, Eggers mixed in some Lovecraftian horror, Greek mythology in the way of Proteus and Prometheus, religious imagery, folklore, mermaids, dream sequences, and a load of other stuff that I never thought I'd actually see in my life, including some vigorous masturbation scenes, mermaid genitalia, mermaid sex, a lot of creepy tentacle stuff, and more razzmatazz like this. And while all of this is executed well and it all fits the film's tone, visual presentation, and various subject matters, parts of it still don't feel fully fleshed out. Maybe I just need to think about it more, or maybe it just doesn't. It is constantly made clear that Eggers has a brilliant eye for striking visuals, sometimes horrifying and disturbing visuals, but striking nonetheless, unique dialogue, and fascinating ideas that are worth experiencing and exploring. However, I am still trying to figure out, like I said, if it all works as one cohesive film, or if it is, in fact, all under the guise of being like, that's neat and cool and potentially profound, maybe? To use one example, a huge part of the film is about the younger Wiki, Ephraim, wanting to tend the light and the older keeper, Thomas, not letting him. It's like this animalistic desire for Ephraim to get to the light, wanting to reach it and feeling emasculated by Thomas, who is clearly refusing him out of his own superiority-inferiority complex. It is this conflict of temptation and denial. Ephraim feels left out as he looks upon the lighthouse and sees Thomas basking in the glory of its glow, completely in the nude, I might add. And with this comes a lot of Promethean imagery, i.e. the Greek demigod hero that brought light to humanity. And it makes sense on certain levels, but it doesn't feel fully developed as an idea for this specific film. There's not really much to do with Ephraim bringing light to anyone to parallel the myth. And while the new retelling of this story in the lighthouse ends similarly, it feels a little more like it is used for shock value here. Like the whole thing feels and looks cool, but doesn't seem to be fully developed beyond the more simplistic elements of it all. Similarly, Thomas's character parallels his own Greek character, Proteus, the old man of the sea. And there are a lot of reasons that this makes sense. Thomas is a maritime man who seems like an endless fount of knowledge when it comes to myths and folklore about the sea. But again, just like with Ephraim's connection to Prometheus, I'm still trying to decide if Thomas's connection to Proteus is just surface level or profound. There are cases to be made for either side of this argument, if I'm being honest. On the one hand, the portrayal of both characters as god or demigod-like figures, and then having them clash fits nicely with the film's central conflict, for gods and mythological figures tend to clash with each other all the time. However, I have no recollection of a Greek story where Proteus and Prometheus clash. Or maybe it's all just used in the film to show how the two men kind of see themselves as godlike figures, but are actually frauds, another theme of the film. And then the mythological elements are featured here as a way for the film to set up and then strip down the men. But then again, why choose Prometheus and Proteus for that, and not two legitimate gods? There are plenty that could stand in for the two men and play the same role. And it is this type of stuff that I've been thinking about a lot when it comes to this film. Is it actually deep and profound? Or is it surface level artistic stuff that seems cool, but is kinda nonsensical and weak upon deeper inspection? Who knows, I'm still not sure myself, and it'll take more viewings and contemplation to come to a final decision on that matter, methinks. But nonetheless, The Lighthouse is still a very unique experience with a very unique voice and a multitude of layers behind it all. And if that sounds like your cup of tea, i.e. a strange, artistic, bordering on pretentious horror thriller film, then I think you will at least enjoy The Lighthouse, and it'll make you think long, deep, and hard about it. And there is definitely fun in that, at least for me. But if you think the strange and oftentimes slightly disturbing imagery, confusing elements, and rough meat on this film's bones are not exactly the elements that you look for in a movie, then I can't really recommend The Lighthouse to you. It's a film for a very specific type of person, and not something that everyone, hell, maybe even most people, will be able to enjoy. Thanks for watching, I hope you liked it. If you did, leave a like. If you want to add anything, feel free to leave a comment. If you want to see more, please subscribe. I am Professor Kino, and I look forward to our next discussion.